Let's go!
One thing that I think is easily one of the most excitable portions of modern Mortal Kombat is clearly guest characters. We know the guest characters that are going to be showing up for MK1, right? To look back, we don't know how they're going to play. I want to look back going to Mortal Kombat 9 because that's where guest characters technically start. MK versus DC doesn't count because it's Mortal Kombat and DC characters. 9 is like the first big one where they were like, oh, no, we're just going to pull characters from movies and other game franchises into the world of Mortal Kombat. I think this offers us a pretty unique opportunity to look at the past incarnations of guest characters, going back to MK9 and seeing which ones kind of hit the most, which ones were like the dopest, which ones had like the best gameplay, all that kind of stuff. The very first one that happened was a PlayStation exclusive. And yes, Kratos was a playable dude in Mortal Kombat 9. Unfortunately, you know, it's Kratos, so it was locked to one version of the game. But still, if we're talking about like character impact on like, man, if you could include a character on a Mortal Kombat game, the first technical guest character, yeah, that's probably like one of the best ones. In my opinion, I think Kratos, if we're talking about like appearance of the character in general, I think Kratos is like perfect fit and probably 10 out of 10. Like such a good call to stick this dude into Mortal Kombat. However, I think it's only like, I might drop it to a 9 because I feel like my timeline is mixed up a bit. Hold on a second. Soul Calibur, Broken Destiny. And this is why this doesn't hit as hard as it could, because Kratos had ventured into the fighting game landscape before. And it was in Soul Calibur on the PlayStation Portable.
I will make you suffer.
You know, I would say he's a 10 out of 10 appearance. But 2 years before MK9 was a thing, Kratos was beating ass in Soul Calibur, and man, he's actually ridiculously cool in this game. Why do the graphics look so good? Shut up, because this game is actually, PSP was kind of crazy. I think that only drops the point of Kratos showing up in MK by like 1. So I think it's like a 9 out of 10. Damn, Kratos is in MK, that's perfect. Wasn't he just in another game? Wasn't he like just in something? I think Kratos ended up being banned competitively simply because his ass was not available on every system. But I mean, he's kind of sick. They gave him some cool like QTE gameplay stuff. You can choose how you wanted to end combos with Kratos and shit. They incorporated some pretty dope elements that were, and this is mostly God of War 3 Kratos, right? So you have to like use that as comparative. It's kind of dope, right? So I think like gameplay wise, he's not the most dynamic character in the world, but he definitely sets up for a lot of like really cool shit. So I think even gameplay wise, it's an 8, maybe like a 9 in terms of how they integrated the character into Mortal Kombat in general. So Kratos gets a big ass thumbs up. I think overall 9 out of 10 guest character that showed up in this series. But there's more. Oh my God, there's more. So I actually have to look up gameplay of this character because I really haven't looked up much. Mortal Kombat 9 got another guest character. This one would not be console locked. Instead is the first foray of MK actually getting horror icon franchise characters into the mix, and it was Freddy Krueger. Freddy was in MK9. I'm trying to like balance my own personal opinion with this by like how big of a deal this is. To me, my personal take on Freddy being in the game was not like an immediate like, wow, like hell yeah, that's so sick. Freddy doesn't feel like the best like fighting game character because he's like a nightmare demon or some shit. I've never seen a movie, but it doesn't feel like he's like the most premium like fighting game sort of like character, because seeing Freddy jumping around and punching and kicking and all this kind of stuff, it's like, to me that doesn't fit as much without like his weird hellish dreamscape, right? To me it's like kind of, I don't know, he kills people, but to see him like doing backflips and shit, like, huh. To me, that doesn't match up as much as like other characters that I felt they could have used even at the time. To me, it comes across as like slightly kind of goofy, a little goofy. It's not that weird. No, granted, it's not that weird, and he is a good inclusion. I'm saying I think Freddy for me was like an 8, and I feel for a lot of other people it's like the most premium. Like, goddamn, he's amazing. It's the greatest inclusion ever. I think that other horror characters might have fit a little bit better, right? Just been a little bit more natural in terms of their inclusion overall. So, I mean, he's a killer and a demon guy, but he's also like, you know, if anything, I would have liked to see him transform into like nightmarish hellscape stuff. I think that's my take on it. I feel like what does Freddy essentially do? He only uses his cutty hands, and he shoots blades from cutty hands, and he punches you with them. Stabby McStabs a lot. He's like kind of like a different, he's like Edward fucking Scissorhands. Yes. I think that's my only problem with him, is that his potential could have been utilized much better, you know? And even a character like Kratos, I feel like goes a bit deeper into like, oh, look at all this Kratos gameplay stuff he does because he's coming from a video game, you know? If we want to talk about like gameplay stuff, he has effectively the best zoning in the game because he has like a mid/low projectile. And this always seems to happen, right? He's the most, next to, I think, maybe Kenshi, the most ultimate zoner. Like the most absolute insane. He's essentially, yeah, JP from Street Fighter 6 on friggin' crack. Just beyond broken how good he was. Really good damage, and I remember him, everyone complaining, oh, the game's ruined. Right, he effectively worse than Cabal. Kinda. I think he actually was, because he required less execution than Cabal. I think Freddy as an inclusion for me is like about an 8 out of 10. I think other characters, horror franchise characters, might have fit a little bit better. But I feel like gameplay-wise, it's like a 6. Yeah, I don't know, at least to me personally. And that could also be the fact that I don't have a huge attachment to Freddy Krueger, just in general. But man, they could have gone ham with his gameplay. They really could have done a lot more with him. That was all for guest characters in MK9. This doesn't really come to a head until MKX, where MKX was like, oh, we're just going ham. Like, we're not even going to be coy about it anymore. To the point where Mortal Kombat X practically is Terrordrome. Who was the first big guest character of MKX? And it was Jason. This character is so sick, dude. So the cool part about Jason in Mortal Kombat X, I think Jason's inclusion is like a 10 out of 10. Number one, we're talking about perfect horror character franchise icons that could be in here. Jason is crazy premium, right? And it also helps that you have 3 variations of the character that are wild. And gameplay wise, he's insane. So he gets one variation that has an axe, right? His big old gut knife, and that one is like the straightforward one. Still is pretty crazy, and is like the easily like accessible version of it. It's fun. The nutty shit is when you realize the other variations of Jason are like command grab variations, and they also are crazy gimmick stuff where he can literally break his neck, the screen turns red, and your controls are reversed. He has a teleport in the other variations where he is literally always behind you whenever he wants to be. It's so, like, they took all the memes that existed for Jason in the past, they turned it into gameplay stuff. It was so sick, man. This character was just bonkers by how much stuff he had. And it was pretty inspiring. Like that, it inspired us to make an entire like movie about like Jason coming and killing us and stuff while playing Mortal Kombat X. So I gotta give like pretty huge shout outs. I think this is easily one of the best guest characters in MK, and gameplay wise also ridiculously fun. 3 variations that wildly change things and is super fun. I think Jason visually also looks really cool. He's got some like goofy looking stuff because MKX does have some goofy looking animations. But dude, 10 out of 10. Just absolutely 10 out of 10 character. Too good. So that leads us to, this feels like I'm being super biased, but I'm being real here. I'm being real. MKX got the second character in the form of the best guest character of all time. Literally, the Predator became playable in Mortal Kombat. And I feel like some people don't realize how big of a deal this was for me when it happened back in 2015. This was the second inclusion. And I remember asking around early, I was like trying to get information. I'm like, so is he fun? Did they give him a lot of sauce and like all these things? And the very early things I was hearing about Predator was like pretty good. So I was like, oh shit, maybe he's actually gonna be super fun. He's absolutely ridiculous in this game. He's arguably Hishku-10 Predator, high execution, but one of the best characters in the game. So there's the Hishku-10 version, the one that uses a plasma caster to shoot. This one is maskless, revolves around melee and detonation. And this one has a trap that whips you up in a net and does some Predator 2 style stuff. But the cool part about it was this character was a direct homage to the best Predators there were, which was Predator 1 and 2. Every single thing the character does is from Predator 1 and 2, which is good. They don't try to like add any of the weird new Predator shit. You have a 10 out of 10 character, straight up. And then you have arguably one of the sickest gameplay characters literally in Mortal Kombat history. I'm being real. We're gonna gush about it later. Predator combos are wild. Predator neutral is wild. Let's just look up some old footage and just see how this gameplay of this character looks like. Hishku-10 versus Hunter Predator, and Fox like was playing Hunter Predator a lot. It is so dope, and every version is so much different than the other ones, where you're really playing 2 different characters constantly. And I think visually, it is one of the best looking characters in the game as well.
Look at this damage. Into a trap, into a trap. Into a trap.
People just losing it.
There, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't stop there. 52%.
People just losing it. The Sonic Fox combo. I think it's an 11 out of 10. Right? To be real, I think the character is so good and so well realized. Predator might end up being one of the best guest characters of all time, like Akuma in Tekken, although that might come with some arguments. So Predator is also, hilariously enough, another 10 out of 10 guest character. How did they do it again? It's wild to me. Moving on, Mortal Kombat directly looks to myself for influence. So they're like, you know what? Let's make Alien versus Predator a reality. And we're going to stick the Alien into Mortal Kombat X for the second season for Mortal Kombat XL. It's also like relatively pretty goddamn amazing. I think there are some things that are lacking here. Here's the thing. Do I think Alien is another 10 out of 10 guest character appearance? I don't. I think he's about an 8. He's kind of Baraka in this game. There's several factors that go into Alien not being the best. I think visually he looks a little off. I think there is some parts of him that don't exactly look amazing. 10 out of 10 in style, I don't agree. I think he's lacking some very he looks like a dude. And that worked out for the Predator, but the thing with the Alien is that most of the time the aliens you see in movies, they're very quick cuts. They don't let you see them for very long. It just looks like a guy in an alien suit like slapping around. So it looks just a little off. In the Predator's case, that's perfect because that's exactly what the Predator is. But, you know, the Alien always has functioned in film by you not seeing them all the time. Now you're seeing them all the time, and it's just constantly in front of your face. And I think some parts of it still look really good, but ultimately, you know, they had to like cut off his head, dude. So Alien also suffers from the same problem,
He controls down four and flicks a lot of down fours, yeah.
the exact same problem that Freddy suffered from. And it's that he was too good. The character had two variations that were bonkers busted. Acid Alien was crazy good at the start. And believe it or not, like, the one that was even more broken was the Tarkatan version, which he had, like, a Rekka. And Rekkas in Mortal Kombat X were just insanely good, dude. They had to balance the holy hell out of them. So long story short, he does have some fun gameplay. I think the most interesting gameplay variation of him is the Hive version, which summons eggs and drone aliens and they drop. That one's really cool, but it's clearly like the hardest one to use. I just don't think Alien hits as much as Predator in terms of a playable character. And it shows because even I have not played Alien that much. Maybe like a 7. And I think he's still like okay, but I don't think Alien hits nearly as well as Predator or Jason did. Overall, it might balance out to like a 7.5 or an 8 or something like that in terms of an appearance. I think that the best thing that happens, that we get this insane reality, that we actually get a game that features the Alien versus Predator. And if there was any like thought in my mind, oh yeah, then the character's only like a 7 or something like that. No, like Alien being in the game allows for Alien versus Predator to be a reality, and it's actually pretty sick, right? It's actually incredibly cool. So gameplay consideration along with visuals, I think it overall balances out around an 8. It's still incredibly cool that it's here, but it doesn't hit nearly as well as the other characters. The last one is Leatherface. And if we're going to talk about one guest character that I was the least excited for in this game, it was definitely Leatherface. Between Jason and Alien and Predator, I felt like all of them hit in ways that were like, yeah! Leatherface was like, why didn't they put in Mike Myers? And apparently you find out later, we talked about this before with Freddy, that, yeah, Mike Myers was a licensing thing, that apparently they wanted to do it. I'd say, like, overall, being really, it hits for some people really hard, but it also, you know, I think it also really doesn't hit for some people in some ways. I think Leatherface is likely like a 6 of like, man, we're going to include this character in there. I think it's like a 6. If it was Michael Myers, I think that would have hit a lot better. However, that comes with a caveat, because Leatherface likely had some of the craziest gameplay of any character in Mortal Kombat X. It's like they knew that, like, okay, so we got this guy, he's got a chainsaw, and he's got all these other abilities, like, what do we do with him? And they just go crazy, like even crazier, I feel, than Alien and Jason and Predator. He is so much fun. He takes advantage of so many systems of Mortal Kombat X, because likely he was later in the development. He was like one of the last characters that showed up in the game. I even remember trying to wrap my head around it, and I'm like, dude, what is going on? And anybody that ends up playing this character is like, dude, he's so much fun. He's crazy fun. So we just got to show that off. Yeah, this character is just nuts. He does so much crazy shit, and I think I mostly see the killer variation, the big chainsaw canceling one, most of the time, but they went ham on his gameplay, man. So even though I think Leatherface as a character showing up as a guest in Mortal Kombat, it makes sense, but I feel like there's so many other options that would have been like a lot better. It's like a 6. But them going absolutely bonkers on his gameplay and making him just this crazy, fully realized character, I think his gameplay is like 10 out of 10. So if we complement those things and put them together, you know, I think it evens out around an 8, right? It does even out around like an 8 or so, and I think it's comparable to make him kind of like in the Alien in the Alien scope, where some parts of him are incredibly cool. Him as a character, like, not as much, you know? I kind of wish they went like as ham with like Freddy as they did with Leatherface gameplay in Mortal Kombat X. I kind of wish like Freddy had some really crazy things he could do, but he was kind of straightforward, you know? I think that leads us to Mortal Kombat 11, right? Mortal Kombat 11 happens, and they go guest character wild in this game. We get the T-800 Arnold Schwarzenegger himself is literally a playable character. His likeness, not his voice. Not his voice. But still...
You are also a cyborg.
No, just cybernetically enhanced.
You will be terminated.
Still, this being a reality, the voice was fine. Granted, I think the voice was fine. Just like, oh man, we're getting like Terminator Arnie playable in a fighting game. I think that is a 10 out of 10 situation. I really do. I think that's like, wow, that's crazy, man. Like, granted, we have discovered some things that are like caveats in there. It wasn't Terminator 1 or Terminator 2 version of the character. It was essentially like the modern Terminator versions, which was like, oh, he never got like a T2 costume or anything. But still, you have to realize how crazy this was. The likeness of Arnold Schwarzenegger over the Terminator as a playable character was pretty crazy at the time. So I think just in terms of overall impact and people going like, wow, damn, that's nuts. I think that's a 10 out of 10 situation of just shocking and really cool that that is a reality. The reality of the situation is his gameplay. And I remember Terminator being good in this game. But unfortunately, gameplay-wise, Terminator is kind of basic. He gets the Jason teleport, and here's the thing. Yes, here's what I remember being disappointed by. Even before he came out, I was like, wait a minute, he has a lot of like Jason moves. He literally had a whole bunch of Jason attacks from MKX, including the behind your back teleport that we just saw, and several normals. Like several normals were almost like keyframed the same way, but he was just a way less interesting version of Jason, gameplay wise. So yes, the best comparative I had was when Terminator came out and we were playing him and other people were playing Terminator. We were fighting each other and it was like, oh man, like this just looks like two drunk dads fighting at a Little League game. And the most fantastical Terminator thing he does is this. And this was not even selectable in a variation.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
You know, hold on a second, wait for it.
Oh, badass.
Like, actually seeing Terminator stuff was cool. It was cool seeing the endoskeleton underneath, right?
Don't throw Blanche at me.
So he dies and he turns into the Terminator. It's like, whoa, this is so sick. This was like a really expensive move, right? This cost like several slots or something like that. So cool. You rise from the dead just like Jason, right? Jason could do the same thing in Mortal Kombat X with limited health. The music kicks in, dun 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 dun. But what do you get with this?
Bum. Geek. Geek. That is terrible. Oh my god. It's so bad.
You couldn't jump. You had like one combo. You could just kick. They weren't powerful. Awful. You had like armor in some way, but you were just, somebody could just run away from you and throw projectiles at you and you'd die. It was just a gimmick that was bad. It was an afterthought, and it was honestly the coolest looking thing the Terminator could do. I don't think he could dash. I think he could only walk too. Granted, that might have changed. There might have been some stuff that happened later. I think like gameplay wise, this shit was like a 4, dude. It was bad. And then ultimately, you know, no Terminator 2, no Terminator 1. They only had the licensing for the newer Terminators. I think like the shock value of Terminator being playable in Mortal Kombat was like a 10, and it's literally Arnold. That's a 10, dude. It's so dope. But then all the caveats start coming in there, and it's like, oh man, like really, like he doesn't really fight or do anything interesting. He's like just a worse Jason. Like all that stuff sort of compiles and adds together, and I think it balances out to like a 6. Who was the next one? Was Joker. Does anyone remember the first one? Oh man. Does anyone remember Mike Matei Joker? Oh god, I remember this. They changed his face. Granted, They did eventually make him look like crazier, right? They did change his face a bit, but the first Joker face was not great. That was not great, buddy. I did not. I was like, what are we looking at here, dude? What's going on, man? If they could take a DC bad guy and stick them into Mortal Kombat, dude, the Joker is perfect. It's perfect, man. Like, what a cool idea. The Joker, yeah, because you can kill the Joker and nobody feels bad about that. You can rip his head off. That's fine.
Those blades, those teeth.
Realizing the ways I can kill you.
The bucks I'll make selling them in Gotham.
Yeah, Joker just fits perfectly into Mortal Kombat. It really does. I think this character's inclusion is another like 10 out of 10 situation. Brilliant, so smart, like such a cool idea to put the Joker into Mortal Kombat because obviously the crossover with Injustice and everything. So anyway, I think I was very happy with this and kind of excited about it. He's pretty fun too, right? He's actually kind of a fun character. And I think gameplay wise, there is few characters in MK11 that left me like, oh, I'm kind of having fun here with this character. I enjoyed my time with Joker. Was it a character that I wanted to invest a ton of like, you know, a ton of time into? It didn't end up being that, but I legit had a good time with him. I think if there's two characters that stand out the most in MK11 in terms of gameplay, it was probably Sindel and Joker. Because Joker was fun, and I think his realization in this game, like, look at the way he looks, the way he animates, he's so much better than what they did in Injustice 2, in my opinion. So I think gameplay-wise, because it's not nearly as the same levels of what they were pulling off in MKX, it's still really good. It's like an 8. So I think overall, I'd probably drop the Joker to a 9. Right? Between announcement, visuals, how the execution of him and everything, and overall his gameplay, he had some really cool looking notes and shit he can do on his special moves. Look at this, man. He pulls out a wheelchair and swings the body around. Look at this shit's getting creative. There's some wild ass animations here that are like, all right, this is actually pretty sick. And MK11 was already a game that was very muted in terms of like how the gameplay was. I'll balance everything out at around a 9, like about a 9 out of 10 between gameplay and overall visuals. Just another banger guest character. I wish he was in another game, but they did a pretty damn good job. So let's be real here. This character was demanded to be in Mortal Kombat since even people could start wrapping their heads around characters being in Mortal Kombat, right? Them finally doing this was like answering fan demand for literally what felt like 10 years. I have to give like pure 10 out of 10 goes to Dimitri Vegas, and I just can't believe that they made this possible. I can't believe it. Between gameplay and visuals and his voice. Also, they put Spawn in the game. You know, also, yes, Spawn showed up at some point and, you know, finally became a playable character in Mortal Kombat. Yeah, that's a 10. Easily, that's a 10. I have such a love-hate relationship with this character, man. So much of this is just, every time I look at this, it makes me so happy. It's so goddamn cool. Probably one of the best realizations of this character as well, ever.
Only if you follow my lead. All due respect, that's not in the cards.
I can't even. It's still. I still put myself in the situation where I was like, dude. I mean, granted, it's a 10 out of 10. Everybody knows it's a 10 out of 10. Spawn being an MK, anybody that's over the age of like 25, it's a 10 out of 10. I was like, dude, I'm like waiting for my character in MK. I'm like, this is it. Oh God, like MK11 was a game where I just could not settle on a character. Nobody was super fun to me. I had some fun with Joker. I had some fun using other characters. I just was not ready to like invest time into anybody in the game. And I was like, dude, it's gonna be Spawn. It's gonna happen. Spawn is going to be that character. I was so ready that this was gonna be it. This is 10 out of 10. I'm finally gonna find something I absolutely love to play about MK11. And look how cool this stuff is, man. In trailer form, it is so cool. And then you play the guy, and it's like a 6. It's the most harsh reality kicking in about Spawn. So much of this was exactly like what we wanted. It was literally such perfect execution on so many fronts. And he's just like a super heavy, super slow, meandering, doesn't have that many strings. Some of it, the only thing that was really cool about him was the one variation where you could make your crushing blows like combo into multiple other crushing blows. There was something that allowed him to get one fat ass combo, but only once, right? He can only do it once. That was the best version of the most fun to be had with Spawn, in my opinion. All that really ended up happening like after you play him and everything's so sick looking, but then you kind of, I don't think I'm having that much fun with this character. It's making me like wish that this guy was in Mortal Kombat X. Ultimately, like going back and realizing that no, dude, like he's really not that fun to play. He's got some fun stuff in general. But because of the system mechanics, you know, of MK, it makes it really hard to really enjoy his toolkit in some way. So to me, 10 out of 10, because it's Spawn in Mortal Kombat, it's just like a 10 out of 10. I'm wild about it. Gameplay ended up being like a 6. Here's what's nuts. I still want to balance that out to like an 8. I don't want to give him a 7. I still want to give him an 8 because I think his realization in this game is actually like crazy. It's not the game that I wanted him to be in, but goddamn, the way they nailed some of this shit is so cool. Do we have like me figuring out the way, the full combo day one? Here's the first crushing blow, sick. Second crushing blow, sick. Third crushing blow, sick. Fourth crushing blow, sick. Into super. It's so sick, man. Look how incredibly cool this is, dude. No wonder Mortal Kombat 11 sold like 15 million copies. No wonder. Just look at this game, man. Just look at this game. So RoboCop's like childhood icon for several people. Myself, all of you, anybody that's a boomer. This is just absolute premium, like 80s fandom cheese character showing up. Like, here's the thing. Yeah, RoboCop is like a 9 out of 10. Like, goddamn, this is going to be so sick. Even before RoboCop, we knew any move he had in the game, before we knew anything he could do gameplay-wise, you heard the idea of RoboCop being in Mortal Kombat 11 and immediately feeling disappointment. Simply because it's like, what is he gonna do? Just shoot you? That's exactly that. That is all he really does. And it was like, maybe they'll come up with some interesting creative things he could do. Maybe he shoots you in the dick. Like, oh no. So it was like, even before we knew that RoboCop was like confirmed, that it was rumored ahead of time, there was already like an era, like a wafting funk of like, oh man, that guy's going to be annoying as shit. He's going to be so goddamn, he's going to be slow and annoying, and he's going to have crazy zoning. And that's literally exactly what he was. I think RoboCop overall is a proper, like 9 out of 10 kind of reveal. Like, this also allows for this to happen. This becomes a reality. RoboCop versus Terminator, 90s comic era classic matchup.
Of a previous encounter.
We have met. I am sure of it.
Yes. Because RoboCop versus Terminator was a huge crossover comic thing in the 90s, you know? Unfortunately, yeah, RoboCop shares some sort of like similarities to Terminator, just in terms of like, oh, I was hoping they would do something interesting with him, and they just don't, right? They end up making him kind of like basic and straightforward and simple, and he does exactly what you think he would do, and he really doesn't do much else. So I think gameplay wise, like RoboCop is arguably, geez, man, like maybe a 4. Like if you want, like I am bored to tears playing this guy. I think RoboCop was like one of the first characters in MK11 where I was like, oh, dude. Because like, yeah, RoboCop being in a fighting game is awesome. RoboCop being in MK11 is exactly as you think it would go. I think sticking him at around a 5 is about right. You know what I appreciate about Rambo in Mortal Kombat 11? They did not take the obvious like Rambo 2 and Beyond route where it was just like, oh great, another character with a machine gun. Oh great. Like that did not end up happening. They gave him some kind of like, they gave him some pretty interesting variations, and they went ham on Rambo First Blood and made that a big part of his toolkit. But overall, how do we feel about Rambo showing up as a guest character?
In the future, machines are in charge.
All human life is terminated.
Fuck.
Fuck. For some, it's like a 10 out of 10 smack dab into the stratosphere. This is going to be the dopest thing in the world. And for others, it's going to be really bad. For me, it was completely mid, right? Just, I felt like it's the most like 7 out of 10 sort of character reveal. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, it's cool to see like, you know, 80s action stars, because that ended up being the theme of Mortal Kombat 11. RoboCop versus Rambo versus Terminator. So I really appreciate that that's where they go with all of this. I actually think that is a really cool way of doing it. But Rambo, I feel like hits the least of all of those. You know, he fits. Don't get me wrong. He definitely fits. But there was also rumors of Ash, right, from Evil Dead being in Mortal Kombat 11 as well. That might have been cool, right? I think that might have been a bit more exciting just in general, although a little bit more niche, not entirely, because it's still a very popular character. I still think overall Rambo showing up is like a 7. But I think gameplay-wise, he was kind of fun, right? There were some parts of his gameplay that I didn't absolutely hate. He does use a gun in some ways, but not like specifically for, I don't think he had like a really crazy zoning variation. Yeah, he had like arrows, but he really wasn't just, I'm just gonna shoot you from like constantly in all these different directions, right? I don't think it hits in a crazy great way. I think his gameplay is also like a 7-ish. It's fine, right? It's fine is what it is. I think ultimately like his gameplay was all right. It definitely didn't hit in the same ways that like Joker did for Mortal Kombat 11, or, you know, I think I might have enjoyed playing. I think I enjoyed playing Rambo more than Spawn. Funny enough, he might be bad, but we're talking about just fun factor, right? That he had some goofy fun stuff, and the trap stuff was kind of fun. I had more fun with Rambo than Spawn. That's what I can say, which is why he's just a 7. This guy is rock solid 7 out of 10 sort of character, and 7 out of 10 character appearance. There's still a lot of really good inclusions in Mortal Kombat 11. Between Predator, Spawn, Jason, Kratos, Leatherface, Terminator, Joker, we have the future to look to now. How do I feel about Homelander, Omni-Man, and Peacemaker? Cautiously optimistic? Cautiously. I'm double cautiously optimistic about Mortal Kombat 1 guest characters. I would like to be optimistic because I'm terrified. Just Superman. Is he going to do Superman eye lasers? Is his jumping eye laser going to be like Superman's? Please, dear God, no. Is this guy going to have a forward 2-3? I have many questions. We have 2 Supermans. Are we just going to split eye lasers and milk up here? Are we just going to have punchy Superman down here? What's going to happen? And to me, it's like, if we're just talking about overall impact of guest character appearances, all of these guys are 7s for me. Every single one. They could be the most fun shit ever, right? They could be absolute a blast to play. We do not know, because we don't even really know how the gameplay of MK1 is going to work out. We don't even know what's actually good in Mortal Kombat.